This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is November 2nd, 2023. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, and joined by my co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, what is going on, brother?
It is wild how a few days changes things, Jonathan. It is a darn shame how it changes things. We'll talk about it, obviously, but you know, it took up the last 2 nights of our lives, so it's hard for me not to really tie it into the intro and how I'm doing, because you and I both spent, you know, the time as most Magic fans staying up till, you know, 1:30, 1 a.m. just to see our hearts get broken. More so on Monday night. We knew our hearts were going to break on Tuesday night, especially halfway through.
I think, you know, I was thinking about this today because I feel terrible today, like for a number of reasons. Mm-hmm. And all this talk to start the year about how this is like the earliest we've ever had a, you know, West Coast road trip and so on and so forth. When I think about just like logistics of this season and like what our lives look like on a week-to-week basis, this will probably be the most difficult week of the year for us.
Right.
When you think we recorded on Sunday, stayed up wicked late on Monday, right? Mm-hmm. I woke up yesterday on Tuesday, so went to bed around 2, Monday night, Tuesday morning, got about 4 hours of sleep, had to wake up. I had a dentist appointment on Tuesday, all right? Now for those keeping track of my Invisalign, God bless you, I'm now on my 3rd round of Invisalign. I've now got the rubber bands in my mouth. I took them out because I can't talk like that. Took the kids trick-or-treating, right? Got home like about like 8:30, somewhere around there, got them in bed. Then we had this Clippers game, second night of a back-to-back. We record tonight. Then we have the Jazz game tomorrow. Like, I cannot think of that's a five nights in a row where we've got podcast magic stuff going on, and most of it requiring us to stay up at, you know, well past, you know, midnight, 1 a.m. this week.
There's something that producer Kevin said on the post-game live, talking about the Clippers game, Jonathan. He said, he put in perspective for us. He said, it can't get any worse than this, right? You stay up, all context included. You stay up till 1:30 just to watch your team get their doors blown off by the Clippers. There's not another 10:30 start time, I believe is what he said. There's a 10 p.m. start time at some point this season, or a couple more times this season. But this is as bad as it gets. So just take the lumps as they come, and then we're moving on. You got a 9 p.m. tip off. I'm gonna feel like a new man going to bed at midnight tomorrow or today as you guys listen to this. But yeah, it doesn't get any worse than that Clippers game. That's for sure.
What the hell is the NBA's problem? Because we do have 2 10 p.m. games remaining, and guess what? They're freaking back-to-back again. Tuesday, January 2nd at Golden State, 10 p.m. Wednesday, January 3rd at Sacramento, 10 p.m.
It's a fun lineup too, huh?
And then we have a Friday game at Denver, January 5th, 9 p.m. Like, what? Thanks a lot for nothing, NBA. Like, that week is going to be rough, like, you know, recording after, you know, that Sacramento game. But, man, like, just spread them out a little bit. You don't got to just back to back. Give me at least a day off to regain, you know, a little bit of sleep. Like, this is a bit ridiculous in my opinion. But
I agree.
We're going to talk about the losses. We'll break them down. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff. Wanted to give you guys a heads up. We are having another a new edition, I should say, of the Sixth Fan Show coming up next Monday when the Magic take on the Dallas Mavericks at home. So if you are attending that game, hey, even if you're in the area, if you're downtown, you know, watching the game at a bar, the Magic win, you want to go over to Amway and celebrate with everybody, you know, featured on the Sixth Fan Show, you want to head over to Amway. Ben will be there with the light, the camera, the microphone, all that kind of good stuff. And then we did a few playbacks this offseason. We did a few during Summer League, which was a ton of fun. We did quite a few during the FIBA World Cup. And people all summer long asked us, like, hey, this is awesome. Will you guys please do this during the regular season? So we are going to try it. We've talked about that. We've got a lot on our plate content-wise, but these are a lot of fun, so we want to at least try one. So Thursday, or tonight, as you guys are listening to this, when the Magic take on the Utah Jazz at 9 o'clock, we're going to be on Playback watching the game. If you're not familiar with Playback, Playback is a platform where you can watch content with your favorite creators, be a part of the show. There's a chat. You can come up on the stage and talk with us as well if you want to show your face and talk, all that kind of stuff. It's really a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, you want to go ahead and subscribe to our Playback room. You can find us at playback.tv/sixth man show. We'll probably get started about 8:45, 10, 15 minutes before the game. And then we'll go ahead and watch the game. Even if you're not watching the stream with us, it's a fun, like, second screen, viewing experience with the entire community. So make sure that you tune in for that. And then we are bringing the watch parties back this year. We are doing this first one bigger and better than ever. We're going to be at Wall Street Plaza on November 16th when the Magic take on the Chicago Bulls in their second in-season tournament game. That game is going to tip off at 8 o'clock. Would expect the festivities will kick off somewhere around 7:30, somewhere like that. If you missed the draft lottery watch party that we did this past summer at Wall Street, we had like 700-800 people there by everyone's estimation. So going to be crazy, going to be a lot of fun. This is a big game for the Magic. It's their second in-season tournament game. The Magic, in my opinion, have a real chance to come out of the in-season tournament. So if you're in town November 16th, that game is going to start at 8 o'clock. We'll be down at Wall Street Plaza. So make sure that you come through. Going to be a ton of fun, guys. All right, let's talk the state of the Magic. So far this week, the Magic are 0-2 with losses to the Lakers and Clippers in Los Angeles on Monday and Tuesday night, bringing them to a record of 2-2 on the season. They currently sit fifth in the Eastern Conference. They are tied at 2-2 with the same record with Detroit, Chicago, New York, and Atlanta. So a lot of teams in the mix there. They're one game back of Indiana, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia, and they are 1.5 games back of Boston, who right now has the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. So far on the season, the Magic are 16th in the NBA in offensive rating with an offensive rating of 107.1. They are second in the NBA in defensive rating with a 103, and they are 10th in net rating with a 4.1. Luke, we'll talk about this later, but those ratings are heavily skewed by that first Houston Rockets blowout at home. The last three games, the numbers are a bit more concerning, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Let's go back to Monday, Luke, when we were 2-0, coming off that win against Portland, last Friday. Had a couple of days off in LA. We were feeling good. We were feeling confident about our team. And let's talk about the start of this game. Magic start the game shooting 9 of 23 in the first quarter. They were down 5 at the end of the quarter. Anthony Davis just really having his way early. Magic were down 9 for a good bit to start the second. And the game really felt like it was getting out of danger, getting out of reach. And then Gary Harris explodes for 14 points in the second quarter, really in about a 5-minute stretch, Luke. Went 5 for 5. He was 4 of 4 from behind the arc. And then Jalen Suggs has a step-back 3 to give the Magic a 4-point lead at the half. And after that Gary Harris run, when the Magic take the lead, nobody could understand what was happening. Like, this game really felt like it was in danger of getting out of reach. And then all of a sudden the Magic come storming back, take the lead. Gary Harris is going crazy, and it was just like a collective, what just happened from Magic fans.
Yeah, listen, this is what Gary, man. I love this man. I've been saying it. I've had people try to throw shade at Gary all the time, right? Last year, talking about whatever, right? Gary Harris is an incredible shooter, and when he gets hot, and you said this as well, the ghost of Terrence Ross. It did feel like that. Gary just stepped right into the role of what the Magic needed that night, hit the open threes. It was a lot of joy because we haven't had, like, aside from Cole Anthony, game 1 where he scores 20, we haven't really had that feeling of like, this guy can't miss. He's unconscious from the floor. It was just a lot of fun. And for a moment there, for a while, it seemed like this was the Magic's game to lose. This was the game. This was the game of the back-to-backs that you had the best chance of winning, and you put yourself in a pretty great position once Gary explodes for his outburst, scoring outburst that he has. It's right there for you to take. And it stinks, obviously, how it ended up, especially knowing how that Clippers game goes. But, man, Gary Harris was a lot of fun in that one.
So for those of you that forgot or didn't realize, this was the first game of the Magic's back-to-back in LA, Lakers, Clippers, Monday, Tuesday. And it was the second night of a back-to-back for the Lakers. I believe they lost to, was it the Kings the night before? I believe in overtime. Mm-hmm. So, like, they're on the second night of a back-to-back. It's your first night of a back-to-back. If there was ever, like, a game that you absolutely should have won, this was the one. Let's talk about the second half. Orlando mostly controlling the third quarter, but Lakers just would not go away. And we had a tied ball game heading into the fourth. And the Magic had a 5-point lead with 7:46 to go. Cole Anthony comes down, misses back-to-back jumpers. Like, we're talking very makeable Cole Anthony shots, like shots that you expect Cole Anthony to make, just barely missed. And then D'Angelo Russell starts to get going here. He scores 12 points over the last 5 minutes, 49 seconds. With 2:27 to go, LeBron hits a three from the top to give LA a 1-point lead. Jalen Suggs answers with a three the other end. Lakers come back their end. D'Angelo Russell hits another three to regain the lead with 1:43 to go. 1-point lead. The ensuing possession, Paolo Banchero comes from the left wing, drives to the basket, collides with Anthony Davis, no foul call. Now, I don't want to make this game about the officiating. It was frustrating. When you look at the free throw numbers in this game, like they really were not that bad. The Magic shot 18, Lakers also shot 18, but it just felt like the amount of aggression that the Magic were playing with at points going towards the rim, they deserve to get a few more calls. Paolo Banchero especially was getting mugged at points during this game. Now he goes right into Anthony Davis. No foul call here. Watching it back, to me, it looks like Anthony Davis brings the arms down a little bit. And most of the time, that's enough, especially a guy like Paolo Banchero who gets to the line at the rate that he does, but he just didn't get the call in that spot. However, the Magic go down the other end. They get a stop. We go down the other end. Markelle finds Paolo for a wide open corner three that I don't know that I've ever wanted a regular season corner three to go in so badly. And just long, Paolo Banchero misses it off the rim. The Magic have to foul. They have a chance down 21 seconds to go. This is before they have to foul. Sorry. They get the ball back. They're down 21 seconds to go. Jalen drives. He collides with AD, like goes right into the chest. I think AD was pretty, vertical at that point. You're not going to get that call there against AD against the Lakers in LA. No good. Now they have to foul. D'Angelo Russell makes both free throws. Magic timeout with 8 seconds left. They're down 3. Franz forces a 3. He sort of like, double and triple, fakes there, and then just forces one with 5 seconds left. He misses short. Jalen miraculously ends up with the rebound, runs to the 3-point line, pump fakes, gets an open look, misses, and then just like almost instantly bursts into tears. Magic lose 103-106. Magic starters shoot 5 of 16 in the fourth quarter. And the closing lineup in that last possession was Fultz, Jalen, Franz, Paolo, Wendell. Luke, what were your thoughts that final quarter, last couple of possessions, the Paolo, drive, the Paolo 3, the Jalen drive, the Franz 3, the Jalen 3? Like, what are your thoughts going through, this last few minutes of this game?
I mean, I obviously share the sentiment with you about Paolo Banchero and that corner 3. It would have redeemed a lot of things for maybe criticisms that I've had for Paolo thus far to start the year. To this point, Jonathan, Paolo's shooting like 22% on only 2 attempts a game from 3. It is by no means good. He goes 1 of 5 from 3 in this game, and he has a chance to hit that shot, being the biggest shot of the game to that point. Paul George on his podcast, Jonathan, talked about his rookie year. And he tells a story, and I think it might be Danny Granger that was telling this to him. But Paul George just was not hesitating. He just kept shooting the 3-ball. He wasn't a good 3-point shooter at this time. And he tells Granger, essentially, I'm wide open. Of course I'm going to shoot it. And Granger goes, Paul, you're wide open for a reason. And Paul George said, that's when it all hit me. He was like, then I just locked myself in the gym and I was shooting threes all summer. And then I gained a 3-point shot. That is what I think about when Paolo very obviously has these wide open 3-pointers. And then he takes them and you just hope that he makes them, but he just can't get it going from the perimeter. And we know this to be a struggle. We know that if Paolo can get a 3-point jumper, then the sky's the limit for this dude already. It already is. But if he develops the perimeter shot, as is the case for guys who don't have one, then it's a wrap for the league. And Paolo so desperately needed to hit this, man. So I was devastated when it didn't go in. And then the Jalen Suggs thing, genuinely, it broke my heart. Like, he puts it up, and it was nothing to do with his own. I don't know what the plan was for that sideline out of bounds, but it didn't look like there was one.
Why is the answer always a 28-foot Franz Wagner 3 from the right wing? Why is that always the look that we get?
I don't know.
Every single after timeout, you need a 3 to tie or to win the game. Why is that always the look?
And also, who you've got out there. Who's your personnel? KYP. Know your personnel. You have the guys on the court who couldn't buy a bucket from beyond the arc in this game. Yet you had Gary Harris, who erupted earlier, hadn't missed to that point, didn't miss the whole game. He's not in the game. For what? Because, listen, I'd understand if you had Paolo and Wendell in this game to just be big bodies, set a screen, free up the chance to get a shot off from 3, but there was legitimately no action. There was none. Somehow, the play design of Jalen getting an offensive rebound was a better play design than what was initially drawn up. Jalen got more wide open off of a pump fake than Franz Wagner got off of a sideline out of bounds that seemed non-existent. That just should not happen. There's no reason Jalen Suggs should be in the position to have to feel like he has to take that 3. And I don't know what it is, Jonathan. We've got a lot of really confident guys on this team. But there are just a couple of them on this team that I'm like, they without a doubt will try to create something to shoot from the perimeter and make and win the game, regardless of what their percentages say. Those 2 guys are Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs. They just aren't. There's no fear. There's no fear, and there's also there's a pretty high IQ with these guys in terms of being able to create your own shot in the final moments when your team needs it most. I don't know why Franz shot that ball. He had time. There was enough time for Jalen.
Draped all over him.
How is there not an action to free up guys on the wing to get Franz to get them the ball or something? How is there not an alternate there at all? I don't understand it. I don't get it. How does Jalen had enough time to rebound the ball, take it back out, pump fake, and shoot. Franz get rid of the ball way too soon. He pump fakes once on LeBron. LeBron doesn't budge. And he shoots at air balls at just terrible design. And I don't know, man. We can't get a straight answer out of Jamal Mosley on this stuff. And we also just didn't have the question really asked. So I don't know. It was all very frustrating for me. That was a gut punch. And then you walk out of there and you're like, man, you got to win tomorrow night against the Clippers. And I don't think there's a real likelihood of that happening. And as we came to find out, we believe that for good reason. So, super frustrating.
Well, one thing that I saw on social media was like, why was Suggs in that game and not Gary Harris? My question is like, well, why is Wendell in this game? Why is Markelle in this game? Arguably, why if you need a 3, like you absolutely need a 3, why is Paolo in this game? Right? Like, and you're not going to sit Paolo Banchero, you're not going to sit Franz Wagner, right? Like that's just, there's not a universe where that is happening, where those guys are not on the floor the final play of the game. But when the other team knows, like, hey, these guys absolutely need to get a 3, right? And I know they want Markelle inbounding the ball. He's one of the best inbounders on the team. But when you desperately need a three, like there were two guys on the floor out of the 5 that I felt confident taking that shot. Both of them got looks. Neither of them made it. But you could argue like Gary should have been in that game for Wendell or for Markelle, or Cole should have been in that game. But like, we're not even in the situation to win the game or to tie the game at this point if it's not for Jalen Suggs. Like that rebound that AD got with like 23 seconds left and Jalen just dives in there and somehow comes up with the ball. Like, we had no business having the ball like down the stretch here for, guys to get the looks that they had.
And the other thing I want to add here, Jonathan, you talk about Markelle and his ability to pass a ball, why he's the one even in the game inbounding the ball. We get it. There's nobody that understands it as more than you and I do about Markelle Fultz and his effect on winning. But in this scenario, who so often is referred to as the most dangerous guy on the court for the offense?
The inbounder.
The sideline out of bounds. The inbounder. Do you think that once Markelle passed that ball that anybody was even looking at Markelle Fultz after he gets rid of the ball? No. Gary Harris can come in and do that. Yeah, I get it. As far as
it wasn't an intricate play design. Like, you're not asking the guy to make a terrible pass. It was literally just a cross court lob to Franz.
Yeah, throw it up. 6'10" Franz Wagner's going to get the ball, and then he's going to, regardless, right? Like, for what? He pump fakes, he airballs, whatever. So, very irritating. I think obviously hindsight's 20/20, but still, like, looking at the intricacies of this final play in a scenario, Gary Harris needs to be inbounding that basketball. I trust Gary Harris to do that. How is that? Like, the more that I talk about it, it is frustrating me even more, Jonathan. He just have Gary pass the ball in and get a screen coming up for him to get open for a corner 3 or whatever. You got enough time too that he can eventually end up on the opposite corner. Free him up. Man.
And the fact that like we're not running like a dribble handoff, we're not running a pick and roll like to get Franz open. It's just like, hey, we're gonna throw the ball to Franz with LeBron James standing right in front of him and ask him to make a 30-foot 3. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to like poo-poo Jamal Mosley because like he's not the reason that we were in this situation. Like, guys just need to make shots. Like, Wendell, Paolo, like, these guys are routinely missing looks that we saw them make all year last year. Cole Anthony had a chance basically to make this a 9-point game with like 5 and change, which would have completely changed the outlook of this game, in my opinion. Like, Cole Anthony makes even one of those, there's a good chance you're walking out of there with a win. But like, guys have to make shots that they should make. And then the free throw shooting, like, this is becoming a trend. But 13 of 18 from the free throw line, 72%. You leave 5 points at the free throw line. You make just a couple of those, and guess what? You don't need a 3 at the end. Any basket at that point, might tie it or win the game at that point. And then Anthony Davis just had his absolute way. He had 26 points, 19 rebounds, was 12 of 18. D'Angelo Russell, 28 points, 10 of 14. Like, D'Angelo Russell has one of these games like every so often, every few weeks, where he just can't miss. And we just got lucky enough that Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell both had that game in the same night. And we just could not get it going offensively. Like, going to the box score for the Magic, like, Franz, 16 points on 17 shots. Paolo, 9 points on 14 shots. Jalen, 15 points on 12 shots. Markelle, 14 points on 16 shots. Cole Anthony, 12 points on 12 shots. Like, they shot 40% from the floor. And if it wasn't for Gary Harris in this game, the Magic would have been sub 40% field goal percentage for the game. He's 6 of 6, 5 of 5 from behind the arc. And because of his 5 for 5, the Magic, it looks like they shot 40% for this game from behind the arc, but it was quite literally Gary Harris. Like, everything else here, like, you out rebound the Lakers, you do a better job like taking care of the basketball. Just whatever is going on with the offense right now and is just going on with like all of our guys right now, like, they just need to be better. Like, I think I said after this game in like the post game video that I did that Steve Clifford used to say, like, it's hard to win if your best players don't play well. And right now, our best players are not playing well. And the fact that we're still in these games, like outside of the third quarter, like against the Clippers, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but I don't know that there is a ton that you could do in that situation. But like, we're not playing well, and we still should have won this game.
Yeah.
It should have been a red flag opening night when Paolo like doesn't play that well and we still blew Houston out. Like, that was so much fun, that game. Like, don't get me wrong. But there are signs, we'll talk about this, but there were signs in that game that should have been like, oh, that's a little bit weird. But hey, we won by 30, so who really cares? Now we're losing. Now everybody's starting to care.
Yeah.
Anything else about this Lakers game here?
No, I'm ready to move on.
Let's move on. Let's talk about our patrons. Our patrons, we love them. They're incredible. They literally help us do what we love each and every day, every day of the week. Record twice a week, watch all these Magic games, have the post-game lives, the Six Fan Show, all that kind of stuff, the watch parties. It's literally all possible because of our patrons. If you'd like to join in on the fun and be one of our patrons and help support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/the Six Man Show. And part of our benefits, we shout out our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons on each and every episode. So we'll start with Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Franz's Warmth, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez. Congratulations, Mikey, Danimal, Duddo15, Bobby Skinner, Goody93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Juan Geraldo, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Hosea Squealing, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95, Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Reekin, Shahin 177, Bobby the Don, Himlo Ben Himro, Improv 221, Ray Pastrana, Spanking Season, Soft Taco, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Currency Kev, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Santi Leon, Kane Eckler, and The Distract. A big thank you to all of our patrons. Again, you can find us at patreon.com/the Six Man Show.
And another shout out, Jonathan, not to our patrons, but to Jam Hot Chicken. Jam Hot Chicken, proudly serving the city beautiful. They are bringing jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. They're located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. You guys can find them on any social media platform at Jam Hot Chicken. Go to jamhotchickenfl.com to access the menu, online ordering, music playlists, all things Jam Hot. If you guys haven't checked them out, go and do that. Tell them the Six Man Show sent you. You won't regret it.
All right, on to the Clippers game on Halloween, a night of horrors, and it proved to be exactly that. So this was fresh off the James Harden deal, which if you haven't heard about, like the Lakers game ended, I'm trying to go to bed, and then at like right after 2 a.m., the James Harden news drops. They traded a bunch of guys, so they were a little bit shorthanded. Obviously, didn't have James Harden in this game. Jonathan Isaac did not play in this game. We expected that, he's on this minutes restriction, most likely not going to play in back-to-backs, at least to start the season. And that was true. Wednesday night, as we're recording this earlier this evening, injury report came out. Jonathan Isaac is not on it. He's expected to play Thursday against the Jazz. So this is just part of his injury, rehab management, so on and so forth. It was never going to be easy to win this game, but it was going to be much more difficult without Jonathan Isaac. Luke, the first quarter of this game was legitimately one of the worst quarters of basketball you will ever see. The teams collectively started 0 for 17 from the floor. Nobody made a field goal until, like 4.5 minutes into this game. The teams collectively shot 10 for 42 in the first quarter, and the Magic led 18-13. A solid second quarter for the Magic offensively. They shot 13 of 21. 5 of 8 from behind the arc, but had 5 turnovers that helped keep the Clippers in the game. The Magic were able to keep the lead, led by 3 at the half. And then the third quarter nightmare. The Clippers shot almost 74%. They had 16 points from Russell Westbrook, 14 points from Paul George, including I think it was 4 of the most difficult threes you could ever ask anybody to make. Like the last one was like a step back jumper from the left wing, with Franz just draped all over him. It legitimately did not matter. Paul George just did Paul George things in the third quarter. game was tied at 59 with 6:57 left in the third quarter, and within 3 minutes, it became a 13-point Clippers lead. That's how quickly this game got out of hand. They had a 17-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. Magic never got closer than 13 in the fourth quarter before Jamal Mosley decided to wave the white flag, brought in the end of the Magic bench with 3:56 to go, down 17 at that point. It was the second night of a back-to-back. Guys were gassed, and it was apparent that the Magic just did not have a big push in them to end this game, and the Magic end up losing this one, Luke, 102-118.
The third quarter is something to keep an eye on in terms of when the Magic fall apart. We have seen this already, just a few games into the season, where the opposing team will start to mount a run. I believe this happens in the Houston game before you open the floodgates, right? The difference is you actually answered, and that all happened in the third quarter, right? Because in the third quarter, it's like, oh man, Houston's getting very close in this one, and then you extend the lead. I believe this happens another time, maybe Portland. I can't remember if it was Portland or the other game, but regardless, it's
just want to help you really quickly. The Magic in third quarters this year have a negative 22.3 net rating.
Yeah, that checks out. So
yeah, that checks out.
And that's with the Houston game where you actually right the ship and extend the lead. So the point being, this has become a trend. I don't know what it is. If it's that halftime opposing coach is making great adjustments, maybe the Magic aren't. I don't know. But that seems to be the case because the Clippers, like you said, outscore the Magic 41-21 in the third quarter. There's no reason for that. It feels inevitable that the Clippers are going to figure it out because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, there's no way that they are that abysmal for the whole game.
I'm sorry to do this again. The Magic have a double-digit positive net rating in every other quarter this year.
Yeah.
So it is quite literally they are losing games in the third quarter, at least the last two games.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Take out the third quarter.
I'm sure these net ratings are heavily skewed by the last couple of games, but like through 4 games, like that's pretty damning evidence, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless, like that's just what the naked eye shows you is that these teams make a run in the third quarter at some point. The answer to the question is, do the Magic have a counter in that quarter to fight back? In this game, you put something up on X, Jonathan, where you said essentially like the Clippers are coming and the Magic, I don't know where the offense is going to come from. And that is what it felt helpless. The Clippers are a great team. They have 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Not to mention they're pretty great at offense too. But Paul George, man, I want a Paul George on my team when I grow up. That's what I want, because Paul George is nuts when he gets going. Healthy Paul George is one of the greatest talents in the NBA, and he was a lethal weapon in this game for the Clippers when they couldn't seem to really get help from anybody else except for guys like Norman Powell, who has a pretty great game in this one. Westbrook comes alive, but Paul George shows why he is one of the best in the league and just frustrates you to no end in this game.
This is another game where free throws were a problem. The Magic get to the line 33 times, shoot 19 of 33 at the free throw line, 57%. That third quarter, I don't know if things would have ultimately, ended up like being a big difference. But it just, when you're shooting that, I mean, that's 14 points that you make up there in a 16-point loss. Like, I really think it has to make a difference somewhere. And then 7 of 30 from behind the arc, 23%. And according to Synergy, I believe it is, 17 of those 30 attempts were wide open. And you had the point earlier about sometimes you're wide open for a reason. Mm-hmm. When you have 17 wide open threes and you end up going 7 of 30 for the game, like that, it's never ever going to be good enough especially when a guy, like Paul George has a quarter like he has in the third, and Russell Westbrook has the third quarter that he did. Now, I know it's the second night of a back-to-back. I know it's a road game, and you have a tough loss the night before that, super deflating, so on and so forth. Rewatching that second half, I watched it back today. The soul of this team, at least in this game, and really like offensively, it feels like 3 games in a row where guys are just sort of like going through the motions, like where, against Houston and like throughout the preseason, like we saw guys playing with so much energy on both ends of the floor, especially in that second half. It just felt like guys are going through the motions. Like they're ready for this game to be over. Like they lost this game when LeBron hit that 3 at the top of the key against the Lakers, or when D'Angelo Russell hit that 3 to take the lead back. Like that's when the Magic lost both of those games, it felt like. They didn't have like the normal typical swagger that we see. Yes, for 3 quarters of this game, they were good defensively. I would argue even points in that third quarter, they were good defensively. Guys were just hitting really tough shots. Like Russell Westbrook hit some shots that 9 times out of 10, you're fine with him taking. And Paul George, I don't care if he made the shot. That's a bad shot. Like that's the famous Paul George line. He made some bad shots in this one with guys like Drape all over him. But like the vibes just felt off. Like guys did not look like they were out there having fun. They didn't look like they were communicating the way that we expected Jamal Mosley, coach Magic team, to communicate. And like the Magic just absolutely didn't have it in this game. And it's concerning. I don't know if you have more points, that you want to go into about, this game in particular, or if we just want to talk about, some of the concerning signs, through 4 games.
I think I can add one more thing. I mean, unfortunately, from a wide lens, all of these points happened in this game, but they happened in other games as well. So I'll table some of those for right after this. But to continue to kind of add to what you said, right? Per synergy, 17 wide open attempts, which is like the definition is basically there's 6+ feet of space or something like that between the guy shooting and the nearest defender. 17. And as Fazan, obviously our writer, contributor on Twitter, has a lot of great stuff.
Fazan had this stat first. I didn't know he got it from Synergy. I went to Synergy and I was like, okay, that's where Fazan found this.
But really the reason I bring him up is because in his tweet he said,
I just don't want Fazan thinking I'm like stealing his stuff without crediting his content. Yeah.
No, so the reason I bring him up is because in the post he says, yes, 17 wide open looks from 3, but the Magic only make 4 of them. So that's like 23% on wide open threes. Again, you're open for a reason. Figure it out. And another point, I was texting with Fazan and I was talking to him about it because just from an X's and O's standpoint, he gets it. And I said to him, I was talking to him about it, and he was like, yeah, he said the ability to shoot threes is a lot like running the football, and running the football because it will open up everything else. It'll open up your ability to go deep, to have different looks and catch guys off guard. They're worrying about your shooting from the perimeter, so you're able to get better looks at the rim, those sort of things. And that's something that we saw rear its head in this game against the Clippers. And it goes in really to the whole season wide look to this point, but just a lot of them packing the paint, basically daring you to shoot the 3. And until you figure it out, it's not going to get any better. And that starts at the top. Whether that be coaching, having the right personnel in the game for the right amount of time, figuring out what rotations work, who works well together. It's got to be figured out or else against good teams or great teams, this is not going to get figured out if you don't change something. Whether that's just shots start falling or you figure out something else because this is not clearly working.
So I do think that is largely an issue, but it's also guys are just like missing shots that they normally make. Like Paolo Banchero had like a very open layup like in the second half and just whiffs on it, Wendell, he's had tons of like attempts at the rim where he's either getting blocked or just missing on gimmies. Like he had like a 3-foot bunny in the third quarter, I believe it was. He's just hitting the back of the rim. Like guys are not making shots that they normally should make. Like 3-point shooting be damned. Like guys are missing shots that we are accustomed to them making. And when you compile that with the poor 3-point shooting, you're making life so difficult on yourself. And they say, it's a make or miss league, whatever. We're getting good looks. Guys are talking about that in the post game, and they're not wrong. But man, like we need guys to show up and start knocking down shots. I don't mean to be like overly critical, but it's as simple as that. I know it's a make or miss league. We need to make shots.
I want to add context real quick to the Wendell thing. So per Bucket List fans, if you bring up Wendell and how he is shooting, so I'll give you a much bigger sample size. Last year, all of last year, Wendell in the restricted area shot 78%, 168 for 215. That's a huge sample size, and he shoots 78%. This year, Jonathan, small sample size, so statistically speaking, his percentage should be much higher. He is 10 for 16. 62.5% in the restricted area. A huge discrepancy. So further to your point, if you are a listener, you've been watching these games and you've been feeling the same thing Jonathan and I have about Wendell and his shooting close to the basket, you're not crazy. You're not wrong. Wendell's 10 for 16.
Outside of 6 feet is not even looking at the rim right now on offensive possessions. He gets the ball like elbow further back. He's looking to pass every single time. Like let's do this now. I literally named this segment "What is wrong with the Magic?" because something ain't right now. It might just be a thing where they go through a slump and then they're going to be great other parts of the year. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I have the answers here. But I just want to, I need a vent. I need to talk about this. Okay. This isn't even like an analytical thing. It's like, what the hell is going on with these guys? I talked at the beginning of the show with the state of the Magic. And let me bring this back up. So on the season, 16th in offensive rating, 2nd in defensive rating, 10th in net rating. We take away that Houston game, 25th in offensive rating, 11th in defensive rating, 19th in net rating. You cannot right now look at, like, obviously super small sample size, 4-game season so far. But when you look at the last 3 games, the Magic have not been good. I don't think anybody, like, they barely beat the Blazers, should have beat the Lakers, got killed by the Clippers. But this is not good, right? It starts with Paolo Banchero, in my opinion. This team is going to go as this kid goes. And let me pull up the stats for Paolo on the season so far. So through 4 games, 31 minutes per game, 12.5 points, shooting 37% from the floor, 22% from the 3-point line, 53% from the free throw line, 5.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He's leading the team, 1.8 steals. But he doesn't look as confident. He hasn't been as aggressive. And he's not taking advantage of some of the same opportunities that he was last year. Whether that be forcing the issue at times, sometimes you need your best player to force the issue. I am encouraged that he's trying to eliminate some of the bad shots from his shot selection. That was a big criticism last year, and one of the reasons why he was inefficient is because he was taking bad shots, like long contested mid-range jumpers last year. He's affecting the game in other ways, with his rebound. The defense has been solid. He's been one of the better playmakers, in terms of like points, created with assists, stuff like that. But we need this kid to put the ball in the freaking basket. That is number one. I know it's hard with the lack of spacing. He's getting tough looks defensively, but he's also just missing shots that he should be able to make. I don't think that is being too harsh.
No,
he has had looks that I'm not saying anything that Paolo doesn't know, right? He's missing shots that he expects himself to make right now, and we need them to start falling.
And that's what Paolo talks about in the post-game presser of the Clippers game. I mean, he said it. He said, my main focus is trying to make shots. It's been rough so far, but it's going to come. I've got to trust it. So, but for me, and it all ties into making shots, the confidence is just not there, man. At all. Like, just going up really weak, and it's been super odd to see after seeing him as a rookie, maybe having more reason to go up and not be as confident in himself because he was a rookie. But it's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. People want to talk about FIBA and exhaustion maybe from that. I don't know what the truth is to that, to be honest with you. I don't know the toll that takes. I'm not in a position to honestly speak on it. But from what I can see is that he just legitimately looks more apprehensive anywhere on the court, whether it's beyond the arc, whether it's in the restricted area, going up, challenging guys. He had one last night or maybe 2 nights ago, where he just forcefully goes up against Anthony Davis, I believe, and makes a shot, like in close. No hesitancy. And I was like, man, where has that guy gone for the entire game? Because I just don't get it. I don't understand what it is. Maybe it is just that he's so discouraged that he can't make a shot. But something that happened in this Clippers game goes back to what Markel said. And I think it might have been after practice in LA. They said, like, what's your message for Paolo, basically? And Markel essentially gave a message for the whole team, which was, don't let your offense dictate your defense. Don't let the fact that you're not making shots hinder your ability to guard. And thankfully, Paolo, like you said, over a steal a game right now, is doing well in that category. But the Magic as a whole, giving up 41 to the Clippers in this game, to me, that was letting your offense dictate your defense, regardless of how talented that team is, because the Clippers can put it on you in a hurry, but there's no reason for that. And I just can't help but think that's got to be the huge reason, is because their offense isn't going. It finally got to them last night in the third quarter of that game and didn't really have an answer for Paul George and just shut down completely.
So I don't want to sit here and just continue to harp on Paolo. Everybody knows what it is. Yeah. He's got to find a way to be more aggressive. He's got to find a way to put the ball in the basket. You can talk about the looks. Like, if he gets a post touch, he's immediately swarmed and forced to get rid of the basketball. Like, he does not have the time to sit there and post up and let a play develop in that way. And guys are just forming walls when he's driving to the rim, right? Like, every team is game planning to stop Paolo Banchero right now. He's going to figure it out. I tweeted this during the Clippers game. Like, we're going to look back a few weeks from now and like just laugh about the first few games from Paolo and like how everybody was like worried and stuff. But right now, it's genuinely not a good time. Like, I know the kid is going to figure it out. He's too good. He's been too good his entire life. Had too good of a rookie season. He's too confident. He's too talented. He's too big. He's too strong. He's going to figure it out. But man, if we don't need that in the worst absolute way right now, talking about guys that are being hesitant and not like really finishing strong, Wendell, right? Like, you just talked about his finishing numbers at the rim. I want to know where that would be without all the lobs he's been catching this year.
Oh, no doubt.
Because that's like the majority of his points. And without the lobs, like it's really got to be bad. Like, when he's catching it with 2 feet in the paint right now, it's not ending up well. Like, it was against DeAndre Ayton, like 2 separate plays where he's just like trying to pump fake DeAndre Ayton. It's like, brother, just go up, try to finish through contact. Like, you're the biggest, strongest dude on the floor. You're going to be fine. Like, he's another guy who right now looks soulless. Like, I am not seeing the same like confident, fiery like Wendell that we're accustomed to seeing. He does not look confident right now.
So to further context, you said the oops and all that. Bucket List Top fans, by the way, if anybody hasn't been on the site, it is so user-friendly and so easy to use. It's got
and they just
charts.
Updated it, by the way.
They just updated it. It looks great. But further talking about Wendell has caught and converted on all of the ones that he's caught, to what I found. But he's 6 for 6 on alley-oops. All of them have taken place in the restricted area, Jonathan.
So what are we talking about? Like 4 of 12?
4 of 10 is what he is outside of
so
alley-oops.
40% compared to 70 whatever you said?
8, I think, or something last year.
Jesus, please help us. I'm not using the Lord's name in vain right now. I'm literally praying, help us. That is bad, brother. Which is another reason why I'm not like freaking out, because like that's not going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
But man, we're just getting hit with the perfect storm of terrible offense right now.
The other thing I will say is that Wendell is shooting or getting an incredible amount of lobs this year, considering what he got last year. Last year, he had 25 alley-oops thrown to him. He was 23 for 25 on alley-oops last year. He's already had 6 through 4 games, Jonathan.
Oh, brother.
But he's already had 6 through 4 games, so that's like 1.5
We're
a game.
We're 20th through the season, and he's already got a quarter of what he had last year.
He would be, on pace for like 70 if he played like 50-some games. And he only had 25 last year, which brings me to my other point, Jonathan. And that point is the Magic just need to continue to run the action where he is setting the screen. Another thing that Fazan talked about, another reason to throw him a follow on X. So essentially the Magic right now, like one wrinkle they've added this year, which is why Wendell already has caught and attempted and made 6 alley-oops this year, is because they're running that action where he is setting on the empty side of the court, he is setting a screen, rolling to the bucket, and it's working out perfectly to the point where he's able to convert on these.
Franz is just throwing dimes.
Yeah. And they were doing things like running it twice. It failed once, I believe, last night. They come out, they run it again. Jalen hits him with the lob, and Markel's the one that threw the first one that it ended up working out. But it is just going, like, that action needs to happen far more often. The Magic have found something that works with Wendell. They need to continue to go back to it. Anything that can give him confidence, just continue doing that. Just continue. This basically can serve as a reminder of you're the man. Figure it out. You have to. And I think that Wendell, you have to continue running that action. I would be disappointed if we stopped seeing it or if it didn't happen as often. I think it needs to happen more.
All right, let's talk about Franz. 4 games, almost 33 minutes a game, 18 points, shooting 37.9% from the floor, 33% from behind the arc, 94% at the free throw line, adding 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and half a block. Another guy. I've been a little bit happier with Franz than I am with Paolo. He's shooting the ball from deep a lot better, although it's only 33%, shooting around the same percentage. But Franz just seems to be getting to his spots a little bit easier and able to finish. Now he's missing easy looks. He's missing layups and shots that we're accustomed to him making. But just like with Paolo, teams are game planning. You stop Paolo, you stop Franz. They're trying to make everybody else beat us right now. And apart from opening night where Cole stepped up in a big way, guys aren't doing that enough. Gary was awesome, against the Lakers, and you had an opportunity to win that game, but just couldn't make enough plays down the stretch to make it happen. Franz is just another guy that, hey, we need you. I don't care how they're defending you. These guys are good enough to make tough shots. We need them to make tough shots. Guys around them, we'll talk about the 3-point shooting. 3-point shooting is terrible. On the season right now, the team is shooting 30% from behind the arc. Everybody needs to be better in that regard, except I'm not talking to you, Gary. You just keep doing what you're doing. Everybody else has got to start making shots. Like you talked about, that's going to open up the offense for everybody. But guys have to start making shots. And I understand where people are coming from, where they're talking about, hey, Markel and Jalen in the starting lineup, it's not working. So maybe bring in Gary. I feel like it's a touch too early to do that. But if we are really having the expectation that we've talked about all off season, as good as Jalen has played, and it's one of those weird things where Jalen doesn't deserve to be benched, but it just might end up being better for the rest of the team. If Jalen can't shoot 35% from the 3-point line. Right now he's sitting at 30, and he's missed some tough looks. Like he's had, a couple of games where he's looked all right from behind the arc, but he's got to be better there, or he just will not be in the starting lineup. That's what we talked about all offseason. Jalen's going to start. He's got to be at least league average from 3, and so far he's not there.
And I'll also add to the Franz context too, just much like I did with Wendell, literally the same. Restricted area, he's 7 of 16, which is 43.8% this year in that small sample size. Last year, on 407 attempts, he's 65% last year in the restricted area. 266 made buckets there. So that is
everything
definitely
is going
the weak
bad
spot
on offense. Like it almost
and
couldn't be
right
worse offensively.
A lot of it is right at the rim, and that's the most frustrating part. Jonathan, before we eventually get out of here, do you want to talk about Joe Ingles at all?
He's next on my list. I'm so glad that you brought it up.
Perfect.
Joe Ingles is giving us absolutely zero, but the Magic are doing nothing to generate 3-point attempts for him.
Literally nothing.
Literally nothing. They're not running a single damn thing for him. They're running dribble handoffs with him and asking him to be like the secondary playmaker in the bench unit. It's like, no, that's not what this guy was brought here to do. What is happening?
To his credit of what the Magic are asking him to do right now, he is doing it at a respectable level.
He's getting 1.3 3-point attempts per game right now. I'm sorry. Figure it out. That is so unacceptable.
Yeah. And to my point of the Magic are asking him to essentially play make, which he is underrated at that. 2.5 assists in 14.5 minutes this year. 2.5 assists, not even a turnover a game. Joe Ingles is a great vet in the sense that he has a very high IQ. He is great with the basketball. There's been times where he's got the ball and dribbles off a foot or whatever it might be, right? But the stats show he is a very good playmaker, especially at his size. But you've got to give him more freedom. I don't know schematically what they're telling him, but he is not a stranger to handling the ball. He did it in Utah. He did it in Milwaukee. But the difference is that he came off these screens and popped threes like that and made the pass if he needed to. So I don't know what they're telling him, but the Joe Ingles that has been his whole career has been living off of the pick and roll, shooting the 3 off of the pick, or just sitting him in the corner and just letting him shoot threes. At what point do you say, okay, let's ease off Joe doing that and just let him be a spark? Because in those other offenses, they had more shooters. And so he was able to make the right read to another shooter in the corner off the pick and roll or whatever it might have been, right? But now the Magic don't have the luxury of having a ton of shooters. You need to utilize them when you got them. Utilize them. Gary Harris, all his job is to make open threes right now. That's all it's going to continue to be. That's all Joe Harris has also been asked to do.
I wish we had Joe Harris, but yeah.
Yeah, Joe. This is the second time I've done that in the last month. I think about Joe Harris often. Anyway, Joe Ingles in his career, Jonathan, especially in the last few years, let's see, he had 6 field goal attempts a couple years ago at Utah, and 5 of them were threes. There's no reason that shouldn't be the case with the Magic. Him shooting, even if it's a lower volume.
He needs 4 or 5 attempts a game from behind the arc.
Yeah.
1.3 is atrocious. The dude has scored 1 basket so far. He's averaging a half point a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joe Ingles.
They've got to find a way to get him going.
It has really been pissing me off. People on social media that are like, Joe Ingles, man, get him off. Why did we bring him in here? It's like, you guys aren't paying attention, are you? You guys just want to be mad. But this isn't Joe Ingles' fault by any means. So I'm interested to see how that kind of shifts as this season goes. Does Joe Ingles get more attempts from 3? Do his minutes go up? I don't know, but you have to interject any possible shooter you have. And if you're not, At what point are you going to look at Jet Howard down the line?
I was just going to say that there are people that are mad just to be mad, but there are people that are making the point, like, if you're doing this with Joe Ingles, why can't this be Jet Howard? And I completely agree with that. Like, if you're just not going to let him do anything at all, it might as well be Jet Howard out there running around getting some cardio.
I think the rebuttal there is just that Jet Howard couldn't run a pick and roll like Joe Ingles.
Maybe not like Joe Ingles. Now, Jet Howard has shown that he's got a little bit of, playmaking bag. I don't want to completely, of course, disregard, Jet Howard and his potential there. And I agree. Like, they're giving Joe Ingles a bit more responsibility than Jet would be given, but that's not why you brought Joe here. Like, the secondary playmaking is a bonus. You brought him here to knock down threes.
We don't think that's why they brought him here.
That's not what they said. That's not the reason. They didn't say, oh, yeah, we brought him here to handle the ball. Like, no, we brought him here because we need a veteran and we need 3-point shooting. They didn't say we wanted a guy like Joe Ingles. They said we wanted Joe Ingles. Right. You brought Joe Ingles here. Let Joe Ingles jingle, all right? Let the man jingle.
Let the man freaking jingle.
And hey, to the people out there that are saying, why aren't we playing the rookies? These are lottery picks. These guys are freaking busts. Do you listen to the show? Do you listen? And I don't mean to get self-righteous here. That was not right of me. I apologize. I'm getting a little too emotional here. Listen to what Jeff Weltman said for a month before the draft, and every time that Jeff Weltman has talked about the rookies since the draft. Guys are not going to be handed minutes anymore. Whose minutes are these guys taking? We just talked about Jet Howard and Joe Ingles. It is not the time. All right. Whose minutes is Anthony Black going to take? There's not a good answer for that. These guys are not going to play. That was the expectation that has been set since the draft, and even before the draft. These guys are not busts, okay? Just because they're not playing doesn't mean they're not good, doesn't mean they're not going to work out in the NBA. This is what a healthy rookie life cycle looks like on a good team. You don't just get minutes right away. I know people that have been paying attention to this team for the last 10 plus years or so. You're used to, you're picked in the first half of the first round, you play immediately. On a good team, when you have good talent and you have depth and you have playoff aspirations, it does not work like that, folks. I apologize for my outburst, okay? That was wrong of me. I just sounded like a little douchebag. But it doesn't work like that, okay? Please stop with the bust, with the lottery pick stuff. It does not matter right now at this point in time.
Also, just to further that point, another interesting piece of that Clippers game was that we found out when J.I. is not playing, how many man rotation is mostly going to run. With J.I., it was 10 in a standard game that's not a blowout. In this Clippers game, it was Mo Wagner, Cole Anthony, Joe Ingles, Gary Harris, and then the other guys get run when the game's out of hand, rookies included. And so you ran 9 instead of 10 without J.I., which I thought was interesting, but tells me that the most that Mosley's ever going to go is 10, which is great because that is as much as I would want to go. So just to continue to see how this team is going to function when it comes to J.I. and rotations, when come postseason time, there's no guarantee that if the Magic are to make the playoffs and make a series, that J.I. might only play a few games in a series.
Don't say that. Don't do that. True. No way. There's no way. If he's healthy, gets through the majority of the season, and you're not playing back-to-back games, come on now. We're talking about 5-6 months from now. It is way too early to say that.
I didn't think that J.I. would play 10 minutes on Monday and then not play at all in the back-to-back. I knew he wouldn't play back-to-backs, but I didn't know he was going to be playing 10 minutes. There is a whole level of pumping the brakes with J.I. this year that we have no idea how this front office plans to manage him. So for them, it's, I don't know, man. But
if we get through 5 months of him being mostly healthy, like people are going to you're going to tweak an ankle, you're going to miss a game or two, whatever. But without him missing like large chunks of time, and we just have like normal like injury rehab, even considering everything that's happened, this has been the most bizarre like injury rehab that I've ever witnessed in my 30 years of watching sports. Okay. Even considering all of that, it would be so hard for me to imagine him getting through a season mostly healthy where he plays 60, 65 games, and now we're in April, and he doesn't play consecutive playoff games. If that would be insane to me.
Come playoff time, what do you think? 20 minutes a game?
I don't know. Okay, I genuinely don't know how long it's going to take to ramp him up. If he makes it through the first half of the season, like mostly healthy, where like he only has a couple of stretches where he misses a game or two due to injury, like an ankle tweak, I don't know, soreness, whatever. Where like, not the, prescribed rest, like second night of a back-to-back, 4 games in, 5 nights, kind of like, or I guess that doesn't really have 3 and 4, 5 and 7, that kind of stuff. That I understand. But if he makes it through, we get to the All-Star break, and he's only missed 2 or 3 or maybe a handful of games due to real injury, and he's not mostly off of a minutes restriction by that point, to me, that would be kind of crazy. Again, all of this is sort of uncharted territory, but if he gets through the season mostly healthy, like the whole season, and we get into the playoffs, there's got to be no minutes restriction. That would just be, to me, that would seem unreasonable for almost anything.
Yeah, I just think that at some point you come to a point that if somehow, let's say there's a setback at some point, and he's getting
why do you have to say that?
If he's playing like 10, 15 minutes a game still to that point, and they just said, and they agreed they're just going to straight baby him through this whole season, just get him through. At what point in the postseason in a 7-game series are you saying this guy's not playing enough minutes for it to not, like, this guy's not playing enough for it to not alter chemistry or rotation, or it's not worth it?
Oh, I that's definitely a concern. Like, one of the last things that I had here on what's wrong with the Magic is J.I.'s minutes restriction. If J.I., like, he's playing 11 minutes per game right now. If he's able to play more than 11 minutes against the Lakers, like if he plays 20 minutes in that Lakers game, I'm confident that we win that game. If he plays 15 minutes against the Clippers, maybe that outburst in the third quarter doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, was fantastic, against the Rockets, opening night. When we go and we look at the game against the Blazers, not even 8 minutes in that game. Didn't play at all, I believe, in the second half of that game. All 3 of the outcomes, were of these games that we're talking about here: Blazers, Lakers, Clippers. J.I. plays 15 minutes in those games. I think we're looking at different results. Maybe not the Clippers game. You probably still lose games, probably a bit closer there. But he plays the second half against the Blazers. I don't think they make as big of a run in the third quarter. He plays more minutes against the Lakers. I think you have a little bit more of a cushion going into those final minutes, and maybe you're able to pull out a W.
Yeah,
and that's a fair question. How long can we do this? Well, let's take a look. I think really the biggest question here is going to be like the back-to-backs. So our next back-to-back, I'm looking at the schedule now, isn't it until Tuesday, November 21st and Wednesday, November 22nd. So for the next few weeks where we don't have a back-to-back, we shouldn't see a game where J.I. is just not in the rotation, and we're forced to play 9 guys. But hopefully we can get to the point where he's playing 6 or 7 minutes in each one of these halves. You got that back-to-back on the 21st, 22nd. You've got a back-to-back December 1st and 2nd. You've got a back-to-back December 20th and 21st. A back-to-back January 2nd, January 3rd, January 12th, January 13th, January 21st, January 22nd, January 28th, January 29th. Like, there are some stretches in the season where if he's not going to play back-to-backs, like, you're disrupting the lineup, quite a bit there. And who knows? Maybe if he makes it all the way through November, he makes it all the way through December, maybe they do, play him in a back-to-back. I don't know. These are all fair questions, none of which we have the answers to right now, which as a fan just kind of sucks. It is what it is. But I'm hoping that we're able to bounce back on Thursday, tonight, as you all are listening to this. Win the game in Utah against a decent Jazz team. That would split the road trip. You'd go 2-2. You'd be coming home to take on the Lakers on Saturday, 3-2. And I think we all would have taken that to start the season.
Yeah.
You win the opener, you split the road trip, you're 3-2 taking on the Lakers at Saturday night at home. Like, yes, there's a lot going wrong, but a win, and a convincing win at that, against Utah, I think would go a long way in making people feel all right about the season so far.
Yeah.
That's the rest of the week here. We're looking at the Jazz Thursday night. Tonight, as you're listening to this, you got the Lakers at home on Saturday. The return of Kobe Price, by the way. I'll be in attendance, covering that game. It'll be good to see our boy Kobe. But Luke, this has been a pretty thick boy episode here. You got anything else that you want to add before we go ahead and wrap this one up? Put a nice bow on it.
The final thing I'll add, Jonathan, is yes, we are 4 games into the season. Yes, we spent a large part of this episode critiquing the Magic, but you and I are both very, very aware, despite what maybe our listeners think at this point in the episode, that this could all change in an instant, and the Magic looked great, and it was just a matter of opponent. The Clippers game, Lakers game, you lose by 3. Clippers game, you lose by far more than that, right? Like, that game wasn't even close. But that was really the only game you haven't been in to this point, which you tell us that at the beginning of the season, hey, 3 out of the first 4 games, you guys had a chance to win all of them. Great. Sign us up. And we'll just see how this continues to trend. But yeah, so I think that's the last thing. We know the sky isn't falling, but these are all things that have brought a little bit of concern to us early in the season. Something to look for the rest of the season.
Hey, if 2 weeks from now, if we're sitting with more than 5 wins, that's going to be a massive W, because you start 5-20 last year. You start to figure some things out. You have the 6-game winning streak in December. You basically go 500 the rest of the year. And it was until game 79 before the Magic were eliminated from the postseason. We talked all offseason about, like, the play-in should be the goal. Doesn't matter if you're 7, 8, 9, or 10. I'll take any of it, to be perfectly honest with you. The Magic, just, if we continue to hover around 500 and they can figure things out as we go deeper into the season, I'll be good with that. So it's not all doom and gloom. The Magic are still in a good position right now. We're 5th in the Eastern Conference. A week and a half into the season, we all would have taken that. Or I guess a little over a week into the season, we all would have taken that. So, yes, we're critical, but we've talked all offseason. The whole team has talked all offseason about a new standard, a new level of expectations, and it is our job as fans to hold the team to that standard and to that level of expectations. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Just a couple of things. Want to remind you of our post-game live on YouTube after every single Magic game. Kevin's been doing a great job with those. They've been a lot of fun. Coming up next Monday on the 6th, when the Magic take on the Dallas Mavericks, we're going to be doing the new edition of the 6 Fan Show. So after the game, if you're at Amway, make sure that you find our guy Ben outside to give your opinions and takes on the Magic. Thursday night, as you're listening to this, we're going to be doing a playback during that Utah Jazz game. So if you want to find us, you can find us at playback.tv/6man show. Come and hang out with us. And then November 16th, we're going to be at Wall Street Plaza, watch party to watch the Magic take on the Bulls in their second in-season tournament game. That is going to be a ton of fun. And again, for Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the 6 Man Show. And we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at 6 Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!